Hey friends, this is Wendy with STAMPIN. Today we're going to use the Cheerful Basket Bundle and we're going to use the Cottage Rose Bundle. This will be my first time using the Cottage Rose Bundle, but I've used the Cheerful Basket several times. I absolutely love this bundle. Praying it carries over to the new catalog. So before we get too far, I do want to bring up a couple of things that are happening right now. On March 29th, demonstrators are going to be able to see the new Stampin' Up! Catalog. And there will be all kinds of things retiring, and Stampin' Up! Is doing a color refresh. What that means is there's going to be colors that are in their color families now that are going to go away. There will be new colors brought in, and there'll be new in colors. So I'm sharing this with you because if there are any colors that you currently absolutely love, but you don't have ink refills, you don't have the markers, maybe you only have a few pieces of the cardstock, now is the time to stock up on those things. They will sell out. I've seen it happen multiple times. So let's say, for example, you love the color Poppy Parade, but you don't have a Poppy Parade ink refill. I would suggest purchasing the Poppy Parade ink refill right now, even though I have no idea if that color is retiring. I have no clue. I'm just letting you know because I feel like that is the kind thing for me to do, is to share that with you. All right, let's get to the card here. Oh, by the way, there are links below the video and a current host code to use where you get all my card kits for my YouTube lives for the month of March and one for February free when you place a $50 order. Okay, so for this card, I die cut. I ended up not using this method, but I wanted to show it to you anyway. I left it in the video because I feel like it's an excellent tip. And it's one that every time I do it, it seems like somebody hasn't seen before. So you die cut your dies out of plain cardstock, okay, just like I've done here. And then you layer it on top of another sheet of cardstock. Then you place your stamps in the area where that image would be stamped, just like I'm doing here. I'm lining it up, getting it in that spot where it would be die cut, so that when it would be die cut, it would come out of that same spot, if that makes sense. I really hope that all of this is making sense. So I'm getting them lined up into their positions. I'm going to close the MISTI door, open it up, ink up my stamps. I'll stamp it back down, and you will see that it's going to stamp perfectly in those holes where I die cut. Now, your question is, why does this matter? Who cares? Why are you doing this? Okay, I'm going to tell you why. Because if you were going to, two things. One, if you were going to stamp this multiple times, then the easiest thing to do would be to die cut a whole bunch of these flowers in white and then just pop them back in those holes and stamp them. Two, in my case, I'm going to color these flowers and I'm going to die cut them out. However, they have to be in that specific position to run them through the die cut machine, if that makes sense, unless you cut them apart, which is what I end up doing. But I left this in just so you could see how all of that would work, even though I ended up not using that method. So here I am stamping all of the other images I want to use on this card, and getting all of those stamped and ready for coloring with Memento Tuxedo Black ink. I am making this card for a very special lady, Miss Deborah. Miss Deborah's birthday was on Valentine's Day, and I truthfully was going to give her a birthday card that I had in my stash, and then I decided she needed her own special birthday card. So that's what this card is, and we will chat about Miss Deborah here in a little bit. But anyway, if you don't already know, Miss Deborah is my helper. She comes once a week, and she helps cut, package, basically whatever I need her to help me do in the office. And she usually is here from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. once a week. And sometimes she takes stuff home with her. The best thing about Miss Deborah is she never makes me feel bad about my chaos. because I have a lot of chaos. Not intentionally, truthfully. I've never even really thought of myself as a person who's kind of a mess, but I am. And I just, I'm most of the time flying by the seat of my pants, people. Wing and a prayer is how I live my life. So Miss Deborah helps with all of the things and helps keep me in line, and sometimes reminds me when, hey, are you going to make this, or have you done this? So she kind of helps keep me on track. I have two helpers. I have her and I have Tracy. Tracy lives in Australia, and she does a bunch of virtual administrative stuff for me that helps me out a ton. So anyway, that's who I made this birthday card for. So now I'm getting everything stamped, and then I'm going to be able to color all my images. Today we are going to use Copic markers for all of our coloring, except for our little barrel, I guess, wine barrel, flower barrel, whatever you want to call it. I am going to use some Stampin' Blends on that. You can use Stampin' Blend markers and Copic markers together, and you can use them separately. I get asked a lot what the difference is. Basically, Stampin' Blends are a starter alcohol marker. They come in a light and a dark, and they are a wonderful place to start if you've never colored with alcohol markers. So here I've sped the video up 4 times because this video was an hour long originally. So in order to get everything in a halfway decent amount of time, under 30 minutes, I sped a lot of it up. So here we are using Copics to go in. I'm starting from my lightest color, working to the darkest back to the lightest, and I'm putting shadows or darker areas anywhere where one petal lays on top of another petal. And as you can see, I'm just kind of like working my way out on each one of those, and then kind of going in at the edge of the petal too, and adding a little dark in some of those spots where the artist that made this stamp set already provided you an idea of where that petal was kind of bending. So where it's darker at the end of a petal is just basically giving you the idea that that end of the petal, or that area of the petal, kind of has like a curve or a crease in it. So by adding a little bit of dark in that area, it just kind of gives a little bit more dimension to that space, if that makes sense. Anywhere where a petal folds up over on itself, like that one just above my hand there, you want to leave the part that folds up lighter because you want it to look lighter. And then you color the other parts darker. So here we're using reds. This color combination of red is by my friend Kelly Taylor. So she has a Copic coloring combination suggestion page over on her blog, and I have followed that for some of my Copic coloring combinations. The yellow I made my own combo, but here for this I just used hers, and it worked great. It came out perfect, exactly like I wanted. I wanted a beautiful red flower, and it came out beautiful and red. These flowers remind me of climbing roses. When we first moved into the house we live in now, we had climbing roses, and that's what these remind me of. I don't actually know what they are. I know they are some sort of a rose, thus the name cottage rose. But anyway, I digress. That's my rose story. So I'm going with red, and I'm going with a yellow, and then we'll color the leaves and the kitty and all the other things. So we're going to go ahead and jump into some story time here, and we'll jump back and forth between the card and story time. If you're brand new here, first, welcome. I have been stamping since 2010, I guess really early 2011. And on my channel, we do lots of chatting and entertaining. If that is not something that's interesting to you, feel free to skip on by this video or to click off, mute, and put on some music and just watch me color. I mean, whatever makes you happy. But we don't need any nasty comments about me talking too much, because that is what my channel is. That is who I am. My I vividly remember I had a teacher in school who used to call me Chatty Cathy. Anyways, so story time. Story time is all about horse land, people. So it's been a while since I've addressed this. I did talk about it in a YouTube live, but I didn't go into what's happening that's new. I don't know. I talk a lot, so I could have already shared all of this in a YouTube live. However, the YouTube live I shared in was 2 hours long, and so it's totally possible that you missed all of it. So, an update on our horse stuff. My daughter no longer has Cap, the one that you saw in the video some time back. He ended up having a illness that is pretty debilitating. And without going into massive amounts of detail, basically our trainer caught it. We had a vet check it through a blood test. It came back positive. And I would prefer if you don't ask me a bunch of questions about it, just because I don't really want to get into discussions about it and stuff like that. So that's the bottom line is we no longer have him. And he is super sweet, wonderful, beautiful. He is in the care of a veterinarian now. But we did get our money back, most of it, not all of it, most of it. And that is the way of the horse world. So before you come at me, understand, horse world, way different than dog, cat world, okay? People buy and sell horses all of the time. Horses get sick all of the time. And this particular illness that he has is not something that's he's going to get one treatment and be better necessarily. About 2% of horses that have this disease get completely cured from one treatment. They tend to usually have relapses and ongoing issues. At his age, which is only 4 years old, we did not feel that it was a wise decision for us to keep him. And we felt it was a good situation for us to let him go back to where he came from. So I hope that is enough information for you to understand. Essentially, we no longer have him. It was really, really hard, super hard. My daughter cried all night the first night that it happened. Once the test results came back, and I had to tell her, she didn't even know I was having him tested for this. So I had to tell her it was awful. I cried, she cried all night. She asked me to sleep with her. And this has been several weeks now. So we're about 3 weeks, I guess, past this happening, maybe. Yeah, I think we're about 3 weeks. And we went last Thursday for her to take a riding lesson again for the first time being back at the barn where he was at, and she just fell apart and we had to leave. So, it's been rough. It's been a little bit of a rough go. So her trainer reached out to me, and one of the other trainers on the property have a program that they are doing called the 100-day challenge. And I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but basically there are wild Mustangs all over BLM land, government land. Okay, really quick, back to the card. So this die is too small. I made a mistake here, but I left it in so I could show you how I fixed it, because most things are fixable. First of all, my Post-it note tape quit working because I used it so much. And that is the great thing about Post-it note tape. You can use it over and over and over, but I had just used it so much that it just wouldn't stick anymore. So anyway, I digress. That's that situation. But I meant to use a bigger die here, and I used a smaller one. And after I cut it and punched it out, and by the way, I did my ink blending with Tahitian Tide. And unfortunately, here on the video and in the photos, the Tahitian Tide doesn't show up that much, but on the card, in person, you can really see it. So, here like I said, I'm realizing I screwed this up. And so I'm thinking about how to fix it as I stamp this. So I knew I needed a sentiment, and this is from the Cottage Rose stamp set. So I stamped my happy birthday sentiment. I also realized I needed to remove my black mat. So I stamped this in Memento Tuxedo black ink 3 times and then die cut it out. Okay, so Mustangs. So there are wild Mustangs all over the United States. And the land, it's called BLM land. So it's a Bureau of Land Management. It was really funny because I was talking to somebody about this and they were like, why does Black Lives Matter have horses? I started cracking up. I was like, no, different BLM. different group, different organization. So anyway, yes, Bureau of Land Management. They obviously exactly what it sounds like. It's the Bureau of Land Management. So they have wild horses. These are Mustangs that roam wild. And what happens is in the wild, for people who don't know about this or don't understand it, because again, I don't want anyone coming at me as I share this, they starve. They starve, they get sick, horrible things happen to them because they're overpopulated. So what happens, it's just like with hunting. So if you're a vegan and you are like, maybe now's the time to click off my channel, because if you're a vegan for saving animals, I guess I should say that, because some people have to be vegan for their health or whatever. No big deal. But what I'm saying about animals is that, like hunting deer, hunting wildlife. Oh, back to the card really fast. Okay, so here I've realized I cut everything too small. I cut this piece too small. So I'm like, okay, well, I can fix this. So I'm going to bring this bigger die back in. I'm going to line it up over the area that I've already die cut, and then I'm going to cut this out. And now I've got this cute little frame piece, and I also die cut the bigger rectangle in white. So I cut the bigger rectangle in white, then I cut the frame piece, and then I'm going to do this as an insert. Now, the reason I did it this way is because I didn't want to have to ink blend another piece of paper. So this just saved me time and materials, because there was no reason I couldn't use the smaller piece and just layer these together. So that's what I ended up doing. Also, let's talk about my glue real fast. It was on its very last leg. I had almost no glue left in this bottle at all. I was fighting it this entire video. You'll see that. And then after I finished filming this video, UPS showed up with my delivery with brand new glue. Thank you, Lord. I was starting to get worried about how I was going to work, because I have to have glue. All my stuff has been delayed in shipping due to the weather. So, my card class kits still haven't gotten in the mail. I did get some of the stuff today, so the Thistle class will go in the mail. If you purchased with me to get that class free, it's going in the mail tomorrow. Okay, so then here we're just going to be able to fit that little piece into the middle and glue it down, and this just has a cute little added element of extra stitches. Okay, so back to what's going on with the horse stuff. So yeah, that's why, like with hunting, I don't have a problem with any of those things, because it helps control wildlife. And if you don't help control the wildlife, it gets out of control and there's problems. So there are thousands of these horses that need homes. And it takes a very special kind of person to want to take one on, because they are wild animals. They are not tame. They are not domesticated. So my daughter's trainer, her other trainer that works at the same place, decided to do the 100-day challenge, which is where you choose a Mustang, you train, you have to be a trainer, you have to have a certification, and you pick out one of the Mustangs, you take it home, you train it for 100 days, you go back to a facility, you do a horse show with it. And this is not like the horse shows you see on TV. This is like a special Mustang show, where they do very specific things. It's basically to see how far along you made it with this Mustang, essentially. And then at that point, you have the option to adopt the Mustang. So they offered my daughter the opportunity to work with them, to train this Mustang alongside of them. Now, she will not be working with him alone. She will not be training him alone. It will be under the tutelage of these trainers, who one of them has been in the industry for 45 years and she has trained Mustangs before. It's not her first Mustang. Okay, so my press and seal technique didn't work and I was annoyed, so I just got rid of it. I didn't even try. So it wasn't enough small pieces for me to worry about it. So anyway, so we're just going to glue all these pieces and parts together onto this little piece here and make our card. Did you guys? Oh yeah, I did. Okay, all of a sudden I was like, did I color that barrel? Anyway, so yeah, that's what's happening. So my daughter agreed that yes, I mean, I talked to my husband about it. I talked to both the trainers about it. I talked to my aunt who was in the horse world for a long time about it. And the consensus was this is an amazing opportunity. Not many 14-year-olds would get this kind of opportunity, first of all. I know that they see something in my daughter when it comes to working with the horses that they probably don't see in other kids, because I think this is not something they would offer to just any kid. So yeah, a wild Mustang. That's where we are. We went from a fancy show horse to a wild Mustang. This is my life. If there is not a depiction of my life more than this situation, I don't know what is. Isn't this beautiful though, you guys, by the way? These flowers on here. Oh, I think Miss Deborah is just going to love this card. So, I've got my little meow cat there, and I'm going to add him. I kind of wish I would have colored him a little darker. I went with the W1, 3, 5, and 7, I think is what I colored him with. Something like that. Anyways, he's a warm gray, and you can see contrasting to the barrel where those are cool grays. The pieces of the barrel, that's a cool gray. And I used warm gray for the kitty. I like to use warm grays for living things and cool grays for inanimate objects that are metal. So that's story time today, friends. That's what's happening. Other than that, I have had a couple funny things. One, I went up to, so I have a friend who is a dispatcher for the county sheriff's department where we live, and she had to go on a work trip. So she says to me, would you mind feeding my horse while I'm gone? I say, no problem, because I got to go up that way anyway to take Macy to her horse stuff. Well, of course, this is all before the whole incident occurred. Anyways, I agreed to it before then. So then we have all this crazy weather come in for us. I mean, crazy, you guys. Like snow, just a few at her house where I was feeding the horse, lots of snow. So I drove up there every day to feed the horse in the snow, and the snow wasn't too horrible. It was more like it was melting, so it was super muddy. So drove up. Anyway, I'm there to feed her horse. His name is Dude. Super sweet little guy. He's a big guy, but he's super sweet. And so anyway, I go up one day, and she has a cat named Barnacle. So I get there, and I walk down the hill very carefully, trying not to slip and break my neck in the snow. And I get down the hill to where his stuff is at to feed him. And as I'm down there, she has a tarp that covers the hay. And I lift this tarp up, and I see this thing move under the tarp. And I'm telling you, it scared me to death. I was like, this is it. This is how I die. Something is going to jump out from under there and get me. It was Barnacle. It was the cat curled up on the hay bale underneath the tarp. Probably because it's super warm. I mean, hay and tarps, that's a warm, insulated environment. It's in a barn. So he was happy as a clam, but when I picked that tarp up to get the hay and he moved, honestly, I thought he was a raccoon. I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is where I die. So, anyway, it was really funny though afterwards once I realized it was barnacle. I cussed him out. I'm not even gonna lie. I had this moment where I cussed the cat because, and I'm observing Lent. I'm not supposed to be cussing, but it brought it out in me. I've been trying, but I've not been doing very good with my cursing. I'll tell you that right now. I love Jesus, but I cuss a little here and there. Okay, so now I'm just going to add all my embellishments. These are 2001, 2023, I forget what these are called. Some sort of embellishment. Anyway, they're really cute. They will be gone. They're going to retire. So if you like them, go grab them. There's a link below the video for my online, to go to my online store, excuse me. And there is a host code there for you to use also. Okay, so here really quick, I just grabbed a dark orange marker. It's a YR14 or something like that to color the center of this flower. And I did that because it just didn't have quite enough pop for me. I'm not even sure it still does, but you know, at some point you gotta call it good. So I added a little more in the center. I kind of wish I would have done like maybe a more golden tone, but it is what it is. I'm still learning. I have a long way to go with my coloring. Thank you for that, Truvy. That was Truvy's necklace, if any of you are wondering. Chingling around over there. So here I'm adding Winkastella to all my flowers because why not? And I did add little dots earlier with my gel pen. Honestly, my habits have been formed by Kelly. That's just the truth. I watch Kelly's videos all the time. She's an excellent colorist, and I've learned so much from her. So a lot of my habits that I do regarding coloring are what I have learned from her, and I really like them. So that's my finished card. You think Miss Deborah's gonna like it? You guys will have to let me know below. I'll keep you posted on Artie. Artie's the wild Mustang. So we had our very first visit with him today, and it went well. And I'll keep you posted on what happens next. If you need any products from me, from Stampin' Up, shop with me at shoploveandstampin.com. Click on either image you see here to watch another video with me. And I will catch you in the next video, guys. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.